Welcome everybody to another fresh episode of the Freedom Mastery podcast. And today I've got a very special guest with me, somebody who I know for some time now and somebody who I'm extremely impressed with his achievements in property investing world, predominantly with BRRR, flip strategy, and the creativity that you've presented across your career in property investing, how you acquired those properties and how you developed this business from nothing to this multi-million pounds portfolio. It's absolutely amazing, and I'm very pleased to have you on the show today so we can share your wisdom. You can inspire hopefully a lot of people who are listening to this podcast. So let me welcome Andy Hart to the studio.
Good morning, Camille. Thank you for having me yet again. But there was a bit of an issue last time, but I'm back again. But my name's Andrew Hart, and I've been in property for just over 22 years now. Where I just had that mindset from a young kid that I want to just be better than from the next person. And I've been I'd say, call me an accidental landlord. I've been dabbling in property for quite a long time. The occasional buy to let every time I sort of save a few quid up in my property business, and I've now up to date I've built up quite a tidy portfolio now. So I now look back and think I'm so glad that I had that mindset to buy property from a young age, and here I am now, and happily retired, still dabbling in the property industry, still keeping busy like I've always have done, and and the world's my oyster, and on a way I go still.
Well, that's absolutely amazing to have you in the studio, because the amount of knowledge and everything that you acquired and sort of congregated across the years, it's absolutely unquestionable. So I'm going to be asking you some questions as I normally do, right? So first of all, tell me, how did it happen that you bought your first property? Tell me a bit more about how you actually started, how it all started for Andrew Hart.
Yeah, of course. It started back in year 2000 actually. I was at my parents at the time, and I recently kind of came out of a divorce. Which I did actually own the property, but come back out of that mortgage, so I was now sort of off the property ladder. I acquired a council house, and only a 3 little bedroom terrace in Birmingham. Reluctantly, I didn't really want the property, to be perfectly honest, because it was an absolute dump. But I took it on the chin. I moved in. I'd done a bit of a small renovation on it just to tidy it all up, just so it was livable. And I lived there for 3 years. But during that time, I was sort of eager to buy it. And I was offered, I applied to the council, Birmingham City Council at the time, and they offered me, after a bit of negotiation, with a huge discount, because you'd got a huge discount back in those days, for 28,140 quid. Which I suppose back in them days, I think the value at the time was about 80,000, so I had a huge discount. So of course I snapped the hands off, and that was my first investment. So my very first investment, I bought it cheap, and I knew there was equity in it, and that was it then, and I moved on from there.
Wow, that's extremely impressive, how you acquired your property with a lot of equity already in it. I'm taking that you bought this property knowing that there's going to be equity, so we can utilize that money, and you can just do something different with it, right?
To be perfectly honest, I was only in my early 30s then, and I did buy it because obviously I knew I could buy a property cheap. I wasn't thinking about the equity at the time. I wasn't thinking, I can buy lots of properties. I'm going to be completely honest here. But how great to be able to buy. I always wanted to have my own house, because I did before. And when I was offered that, who's going to sort of turn that down? My mortgage must have been only sort of between just under £100 a month. And I lived quite comfortably. It wasn't until I bought that I thought, wow, maybe I should buy another council property, because look at the money I've just made. As soon as I bought that house, I've made that sort of money, or I knew there was that sort of amount of collateral in the property. I thought, my dad has recently moved into a flat not far from where that was. He bought that, I think, he rented that to the council, I think, in the late 90s, and I ended up acquiring that. I approached my dad. I just said, can I buy you, let's buy this off the council? And my father said, why would you want to buy that? I get free rent. So I said, well, you'd get free rent off me, Dad, if I bought it. But I'm just thinking about, I always think about long term. Long term, God forbid, when something happens to your dad, that I can sell this and that'd be a nice chunk of money, because I know what I could make on the house I was in already. I could make a huge chunk of money to progress in the property world. And we ended up, well, my dad wrote to the council because obviously it was in his name. It was offered to dad for 18,000. I done a bit of research with the estate agents, and they said to me the property was worth about 80, 90,000. But I hadn't, I couldn't buy it on a mortgage because it was offered my late father. So how am I going to buy this flat? So probably a bit more stricter now than they are now. I approached one of the biggest lenders on the high street. I won't mention names in case they start knocking on the door. But I approached them and I just said, I need a car loan. In fact, it was just a personal loan to buy a car. I just said that to give a bit of leeway, a bit of cushion. I said, well, look, the car's 20 grand. I've got two myself, so is there any chance I can have £18,000? And within 24 hours, it was in my bank. I've always banked with this high street lender, and so I was a good customer, and they zipped me 18 grand in the bank. Me and Dad then done the transaction. I was now, if anybody listening out there who thinks, well, you can't do that, you certainly can. Don't forget the house was offered my father. The deeds went in my father's name. My father was buying it. I was just the guarantor. So on land registry, I'm just the guarantor. We then done a declaration of trust because effectively I could kick him out if I wanted to. So we done a declaration of trust where my late father couldn't sell the flat without me knowing, and vice versa. I couldn't kick him out, and that's what we did. And I carried on. I'd done a slight refurb on it for him. I was his landlord for a good 18, 20 years up until the point he died, of course. Again, there was a lot of equity in that, so I bought it for 18. It was worth 80 at the time. The car loan was paid off within, I think I had a 3-year loan, so I didn't miss that at all. I knew I could afford the payments. Even the because obviously when you buy a leasehold flat, you've got maintenance fees, you've got quite a lot of fees involved every year. So I think I was paying between £1,500 to £2,000 a year, which I basically swallowed that cost anyway. I could afford to pay that for my carpet flooring business, but I knew the day would come that my dad would pass away, and it has done in 2018, and I've got a flat now worth £120,000. There's no mortgage on it. Which I can now obviously use to leverage to buy the properties with, but I haven't done that as yet. So again, £18,000. The house was worth 80-90. The flat was worth 80-90, and exactly the same as the one I bought before. So basically, within 18 months, I've got two properties for 36 grand. 28 and 18. So 46 grand for two properties, and I had two properties worth probably 170 grand.
That is incredibly amazing how you sort of utilize other people's money. That's a prime example of using other people's money in order to acquire assets. This is what Robert Kiyosaki is teaching people in his Rich Dad Poor Dad book, utilizing other people's money to acquire your own assets. That's absolutely a prime example of a perfect leverage. So I really, really appreciate that. So you're telling me that you started in 2000, roughly.
Mm-hmm.
Now we've got 2024. So we've got 24 years of experience. So tell me, what was your biggest challenge in your 24 years experience in the property world?
I think I could probably mention two. I'd say my first challenge was obviously the property we've been talking about. That was my two, and then I again, but just being an accidental landlord, and I was always busy in my flooring industry, that I couldn't actually just go out there and start buying houses and do them up. So there was no BRRs, there was nothing like that. They were just basically all turnkey properties. So when I'd saved a few quid, or I'd refinance the houses we was talking about, I refinanced the first house, which I bought for 28,000 about 5 times. I actually, in fact, still to today, I've probably got about 5 loans on that. So I've leveraged that up to about 70% max loans of value. So I was using money out of that just to keep buying the portfolio as I went along. But they're all turnkey properties, sticking tenants in, knowing that the rent would pay the mortgage, which was easy doing. I was probably making £200 to £300 a month. Now, to a lot of people, that's not a lot. But listen, I wasn't doing nothing. the carpet and flooring business was giving me a great lifestyle, and I put them houses aside. So I built up to sort of 8, 9 houses between then to 2020, I think it was, and obviously more so after that. But around about 2013, I acquired some land. And now the land was just basically just for land for my carpet business. It was just a storage piece of. It was a 2,000 square foot storage unit on it, and I was just going to rent that. But I ended up buying it with an old Italian friend of mine who used to come to my shop for a nice cup of coffee. And again, I always reiterate, you need to tell people what you do. He did remind himself of him many years ago. So we used to go in for coffees and whatever. And I said to him, I'm just looking at this piece of land just literally round the corner from the shop, just to store my carpets in there. I think it's about £18,000 a year rent. And he just said, I've been after that for a very, very long time. We need to buy that land. Now, I'm just a boring vanilla buy-to-let guy at the time. And my main focal point was just the carpet and flooring business. 6 days a week I was working there. So we ended up negotiating with the seller. I'm going to cut a lot out here actually, because there's a lot of negotiation going on in between. But she was getting a divorce, and she said, "I want to sell this piece of land, which was 1/3 of an acre." He said we could probably get planning on it. So we ended up buying it for £180,000, which was 10 times the amount of rental income per annum, which is about what you'd offer. So we offered £180,000, and we tried for planning. We tried 5, 6, 7, or maybe 10 times, and the council was always turning us down. Until one day they had a right rollicking off the government because of lack of homes and whatever. So we eventually got planning on it. But during that time, we were just renting it out to a car wash guy, to a guy who used to do auctions and things like that. So it was just covering our costs. So every month we were just having our costs covered while still going for planning. And then a few years later, I think it was about 4 years later, we finally got the nod to get planning permission to build 5 houses, 4 3-bedroom semis and 1 3-bedroom detached. So then we pushed the value up from 180,000 to just over £1.2 million gross development value. And of course, I didn't know then who I knew now. And so we sold it to a developer. So basically in business, sometimes you've just got to, we've all got to have our pound of flesh. And he was touching 80 at the time. He said, I don't want this grief of building. I've got no experience of building houses at the time as well. So I just seen the colour of £100,000 profit. So we both sold it to a developer, and we made 100 grand each. And then again, that money was sat in my bank literally, mate, 3 or 4 weeks. And I just bought 3 buy-to-lets against 3 vanilla buy-to-lets. That was a big challenge for me, purely because I'm buying land. I've got no idea. Sometimes you've got to come out your comfort zone. And I'm very risk averse. I just say, yes, I have it, and worry about it after. But if you think about things all the time, I don't know, and I don't know, you've missed your opportunity. So you strike what the odds are. And that's what I did. And the second one was what we spoke about earlier is I bought my when I first went full time in 2019, when I sold the business and I retired, I bought one off a property sourcer. And it was the biggest headache going. It was documented on YouTube. I bought it for £100,000. It was an old weed farm. It had no electricity connected. I got robbed by the builders. They ripped all my floorboards up, central heating, pipes, radiators, because the builder who I'd paid up front hadn't paid them. Biggest nightmare going. The project manager wasn't turning up, etc., etc. So everything what could go wrong in a property investment went wrong. And then just pre-COVID, the builder went bump on me for £30,000. Now that basically wipes out all the money I took from selling my carpet business. So I was just passing Knutsford service station near Manchester, absolutely pissing down the rain. Had the phone call off the project manager who just turned up for his second visit of probably 2 months, not every week, what he should have been doing.
Of course. And
he said, have you heard the news that the builder's gone bump? So I'm sick to the stomach. You can imagine how you'd feel. It would have completely wiped any young, up-and-coming property entrepreneur, property investor out completely. That was their life savings, or they borrowed it off friends or family, whatever. Had a bit of a walk around the rainy Knutsford service station for a bit. looked up in the skies, just brushed myself down. I just got straight back up like Tyson Fury did that once. This is what I'm just going to make a positive out of a negative now. It's happened. He's gone. He's blocked me. He's turned all his mobiles off. He's liquidated himself. You can't just leave a derelict house. My family and friends are saying just sell it as it is. But I'm a property guy. I'm a property investor. I'm not a defeatist. So we carried on. I bought my friends up from Birmingham. We went in there. I had idiots going in there. Some Welsh guys were saying they were decorators and electricians, and they weren't, robbing me again. So it just carried on and carried on and carried on. But I just kept going. And when he went bump on me for 30 grand, which is in the June, the house was valued at 225 at the time. But because it took me another 3 months to get it finished, from friends, my friends who I've been speaking to earlier on, my close friends in Birmingham, I put them in hotels. They didn't want to come to Wales at all. But they did for me. So I put them in hotels. We had a good laugh along the way. They offered me a day here, a day there, but I said, it doesn't matter. I just need you guys here to get this house done. Finally got it done 3 months later. Obviously, house prices were rising then. The house then was valued at 250,000. So effectively, I got my money back. And I wasn't even bothered if I didn't make a penny on this property. I just needed it out of my hair. It was a big learning curve from what I did. You don't pay all the bills up front. You make sure you've got the right project manager, or you do it yourself. And you don't trust anybody who say they're a tradesman just because they might go to Screwfix and buy themselves a decorator's outfit and a little brush, and then they do a runner with your money after sort of 24 hours. So you do have to be hands-on, and that's why I'm hands-on on a lot of my properties. I ended up selling it, and I probably made about 70,000 gross profit out of that, and it was documented. It was enough to put anybody off in property investing. So it's not for the faint-hearted, but this is real stuff. And that was another one of my biggest challenges. And since then, touch wood, I've had a few headaches, but not as big as those two.
Hey there, I'm getting inquiries from people asking for help with their rent-to-rent business in order to start or grow it to 6 figures in profit. The best way to get hold of me is to text me on 075 22 571 026. That's 075 22 571 026. I will get back to you as soon as I can, and I'll help you with whatever you need. Now let's get back to the video. Wow, so your story will definitely put some people off, because if somebody is very soft, somebody cannot cope with that level of stress, somebody would just say, no, just screw that, I'm not going to go there. And to be honest with you, that's fair enough, because I think property investing is not for everybody. You have to have a lot of strong will and this desire to move forward. And even you prove that you are like a proper property investor, because at that point a lot of people told you to sell that property as it was, but you said, this is not who I am, this is not part of my identity, so we've decided that you're going to finish off the project at all costs. So massive respect to you for that, because I know a lot of people at that point would just give up. So well done. At the same time, however, I want to say that yes, challenging and difficult situations will happen in the property industry, but isn't that what's happening in a real life anyway, in any industry? Because yes, we will be facing some challenges, we will be facing some difficulties. It's how we handle them, because it all happens for us like for the first time. How you handle it, it's who you become. That's who you learn. That's how you learn. This is a learning curve for you. If you cannot handle it, look for some help. But there is always a way out, right?
100%. And to be honest with you, you know, too many people, no fault of their own, watch too many TV programs, Homes on the Hammer and all that, and think it's easy. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. And if I was to tell people the stress I've had over since I went full time, not just if you buy just a bit of buy to let, that's pretty passive, and it's you know, it's pretty simple, to be fair. Once you bought the property, you get it rented out, you put it to bed. You might have a bit of maintenance to be dealing with over the 12 months. But then when you go into property developing, or when you go into BRRRs, you're actually hands-on doing refurbs, or you're employing project managers, or you're buying land and things like that. Don't expect that to be nothing runs smoothly. And if you're that type of guy who couldn't handle stress, or if you're that type of person, male or female, and you can't control money, or you're a bit of a spendthrift, or you're a bit of a gambler, or you know, I mean, don't get me wrong, I go out partying, as you probably well know, but on my social media, I like to still live my life to the full. but I'm very, very good with money and controlling money, then you don't want to be in that game. You've got to be very, very strong-minded and put up with the stress, put up with the phone calls, put up with the, this has gone wrong and that gone wrong. And you know what? I think I'm actually immune to it now because I've had probably shit for a long time now with properties. So it's very rare I'll have something good, apart from one deal we could probably talk about, which sort of paid me back in dividends. But it's how I'm made. I'll speak to a lot of people and they go, well, especially my family, I do not know how you sleep at night. It must be so stressful. I said, I'll just shut my eyes and go to sleep because I'm used to it. But if you're that sort of person who can't deal with what I've just been talking about, grief and that, and you expect to go smoother, then you're in the wrong game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it comes down to either you grow or you just completely give up. But this is like, who you become or who you decide to stay if you are this type of person. But absolutely, I agree with you 100%.
Mm.
So you told us how you started. You told us about your bad project. Tell me, I'm looking for a bridge, like how you actually scale your portfolio, how you actually decided that, okay, property investing is what I want to do. This is how I want to generate a lot of income in my life. So tell me about how you actually scaled your portfolio.
Yeah, of course. Obviously, we mentioned about the first two properties I bought at the time. Now, straight away, I've got some equity in it. I'm looking at probably best part of £100,000 equity in two properties, which I know is obviously locked up. But the way I was always thinking as I was going along, because 6 days a week I'm in my carpet business, I'm keeping busy, I'm on my knees doing the flooring and what have you. But when you get into property and you buy one, you see the colour of money. You tend to have that vision then that I want more and I want more and I want more. Because I know that life goes quick. I know that properties, sometimes the average can double every 10 years. And I just had to buy more. I just wanted to buy more. But obviously I get that it's all about the money. But I use the bank's money. I leverage the bank. To me, the bank's the devil. They're my competitor. People have been brainwashed out, putting money in the bank to save. It's a load of bullshit. So basically, I looked at it. I thought, okay, I've got 100 grand into properties now in equity. So again, I'll see another property. It might be £100,000, 150. So I've taken loans out on each property I've owned. Buy another one, and then I'll wait a couple of years later after that, and then obviously that house is now down at, let's say, 65% loan to value. I'll max it up again to 75%. So basically, I've been recycling my money. I bought the land. That made me £100,000. So I bought 3 with that. Now, the 3 houses I bought with that were all on the same road, on the road, Reservoir Road in Selly-Oak, Birmingham, where I was born. I was born in number 20. I bought number 6 at first, and I bought then number 50 within a week, out the money from the property of the land. So I'm now up to sort of 5 houses. But there was always that sort of pot. I didn't sort of find money from somewhere. I always used the bank's money purely because there was profit in the equity of the other properties. So if you've got a £100,000 mortgage and your house is worth £200,000, I could always still leverage some of that money to buy another one. Albeit sometimes I was saying that I needed it for home improvements and whatever, and I used to still take the money out for home improvements and then buy another property. So I've had to lie a bit to the bank. You have to sort of box around clever really sometimes with the banks. Don't always have to tell them the truth. And that's what I've kept doing. I ended up. My mum lived in number 20, and she wanted she loved one of the buy-to-lets I owned, which I was sort of getting £700 a month for at the time. I think it's about £1,100 a month rent now. She wanted the house, so like my dad, where I owned his flat and I was his landlord, I'm now my mother's landlord. And so she moved out. I said, "Oh, you can move out, Mum, but I need to buy the house." Number one, it was on Reservoir Road, and the rental for a 2-bedroom terrace there, I'm fetching £1,200 a month because it's sort of what we class as a mini-man, because it's right by the QE hospital. So I know the rental income is strong enough. My mum sold it to me. We split the money 3 ways. It was all passed back to us. We split the money 3 ways to my sister, so I've got a free house. It was mum's sort of gift to us. So mum had the money off me. Mum paid me back. I split the money 3 ways. So my sister had 50, my other sister had 50, and I had a free house because that was my money back then for the deposit. And that's how I own that property. And that property I purchased for 157 6 years ago. It's now valued at sort of 220,000 now because of where it is, very close to Birmingham. So I always look at the bigger picture. I don't look at taking the money out instantly. I just look at the long term. You've got to look at the long term in property because it's a long term game. And again, that's how I bought my portfolio up. And then we can, I think the best deal I've had to yet was again, you must tell people what you do. So I tell everyone what I do. I'm a property investor. I post it on social media. That's why I call myself Andrew Hart Property. On Instagram, not any sort of stupid name that doesn't relate to anybody. And the best deal to date, do you want to know about it?
Yes.
Okay, best deal to date. I was lying in bed, and on a Sunday morning I had a phone call off my taxi driver who knew me very well, and he asked me whether I wanted to buy his mother-in-law's property. Who just moved out because her husband had died, and he said she wants, and I knew who it was, in my portfolio area. Now the houses around there sell probably around about 180 to 220,000, and he said she wants £40,000 for the property. So straight away I said, I'm having it. It's sold. Tell him it's sold. I'll worry about where I'm going to get the money after. I'd already got the funds for the 40,000, but there was a freehold involved because this was a leasehold property with only 14 years left. So again, a lot of investors will probably walk away from that because it's not mortgageable. Anything below 50 years is probably not mortgageable. So there's a 14-year lease left. So she's moved out. I've said it's a definite sale, but I need to find out who the freeholder is. So they've done some digging. They found out who the freeholder was. We've done a WhatsApp group between me and my friend, and found out the freeholder was. The freeholder said, yes, we are willing to sell for 45,000. So that made the house an £85,000 sale. So simultaneously, I paid because obviously she hadn't got any money at all. So she said, well, I haven't got the money to buy the freehold. And you've got to be very careful because she buys the freehold, then she could just say, I'm not going to sell the house now. I now own the freehold. So I've got it in the contract with the solicitors. I paid for the freehold, but it's in her name. And then simultaneously, we've done the sale 24 hours after. So I ended up buying the freehold property for £85,000, which I posted it on the social media. It's an absolute wreck in Bartley Green in Birmingham. Absolute wreck. But the plan was to do a £60,000 refurb on it. That would have took me up to 145, maybe 160 with legals. The house would have been worth 220 done up. So 75% of that, I probably would have left about 10 grand in the deal. Now, the bridging company went out and they valued it at 100,000 because they asked me how much I paid for it. I didn't tell them. So I got 75 grand. So I only had to put £7,000 into this deal to buy this house. And ended up selling it without touching it. So it was a complete mess. But again, I thought to myself, I wonder whether, because I bought it so cheap, it's worth me just flipping this as it is. So basically trade it on. So I ended up putting the house on the modern method of auction with a company in Harborne, Birmingham. And they said to me, well, if it doesn't sell, all it's going to cost you is £300 for photographs. And it's going to cost you £450 plus that. If it sells, that's it. If it doesn't sell, you carry on with the refurb, because my refurb was going to start 4 weeks later. So I thought, I've got nothing to lose. It's a win-win. So I put it to auction and it sold for £185,000. So I tell a lie, it sold for £180,000. So I made £95,000 gross profit, around about £70,000 net profit, and I didn't even get my paintbrush out. Now, that property is the only property I've never touched and made property, well, over double than what I've made on any property I've refurbed.
Wow, now this is something that just completely blows my mind, because we all have this sort of vision where in order to make money in property, you have to put in some value. In your case, it was just about buying the property very creatively and then buying the freehold out and then selling the property, which is absolutely incredible. And it's not always that you physically have to do some work to the property. In all fairness, I know there are investors who are looking for properties where they can just do something with the legals. They can do something with the paperwork, like splitting deeds or splitting titles, for example, and that's how they make money. Absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. So yeah, it definitely deserves the deal of your life. Absolutely. Okay, Andy. So tell me a little bit more about. I know because I've been asked like recently a lot of questions about how do you find those deals, and it's not just about rent to rent because I'm mainly for rent to rent, but I know there are people who are like looking for BRR deals, flipping deals, etc. People are saying like, how do you find those deals? How do I become good at it? So could you shed some light from your experience and your knowledge about how do you potentially find good leads or good deals for your BRRs?
To be perfectly honest, I'll go back to when I was starting to buy property, and I never ever made an offer on any property. All these properties I bought originally were obviously the two were from the council, so they were never on Rightmove. So that's how I got them, acquired them, because obviously I lived in the council house, my dad lived in the council house, so those were the two. And then the properties, I'd say the majority of them, 6, 7, 8 properties after that, I literally just found them on Rightmove. Admittedly, I don't think even they were great deals. They were just turnkey. I wouldn't even say I got them 10, 15%, 20% below market value. I didn't. I just looked at the long term. So those houses I've all bought, I just knew that, okay, I'm not buying them mega cheap. Well, number one, I can't do refurbs on them anyway because I've got a full-time job. They were just turnkey. So I did pay market value, but I knew that it was a long-term game. As long as the rent covered the mortgage, I just put them aside and just forgot about them for 10 years or so. The occasional maintenance. So basically, right move, mate. But during that time, I've always told people that I buy property. I've always sniffed around. I've always, I look at an empty. If I see an empty house, then I might just put a note on the door. Or with the land, I actually did again. There was no sign up. One big sign up there saying Brandon Tooleye. We all know who Brandon Tooleye are. Overgrown, but there's no for sale sign. But you must ask. So if you see an empty property, if I see an empty property like I did that land, I knocked the next doors, which wasn't a residential property. It was a dentist. It's still there now. I knocked the dentist. I went, excuse me, next door looks overgrown. Who owns it? All we know, it's a lady from a Spanish lady. Okay, who lives in Spain. So from then I've done my digging. Obviously, I've contacted Brandon Tooleye. Brandon Tooleye have told me that they're under contract, so that's why it's overgrown and nothing's happened, because they're still under contract to pay their rent for another 2 months. And who buy? Oh, this is the managing agent. So I then contacted the managing agent in London. The managing agent said, "Oh yeah, we're the lease is come to an end soon, and the owner is coming over from Spain." So then I'm starting to get a connection. She's English. I said, okay, so she's English and she lives in Spain and she's the owner. The dentist didn't want to tell me too much, you see. So that's again, you've just got to knock on neighbours' doors if you see empty properties, and that's how I got to find out the owner of that property. Also, you've got to tell everybody what you do. This one where I made 95 grand, literally purely because he knew I do property. I might be in the gym. And I say, oh, by the way, you're right, mate. Yeah, what do you do? And I say, I buy properties, mate. I do them up and sell them. Like, I'm always, cash buyer. That's what I do. So you must tell people what you do. Really, that's about it, really. And obviously, of course, when I'm on Rightmove, I know my numbers, and it's about knowing your numbers. And also, I do believe in you make money when you buy the house, not when you sell it. Might be the reverse what people think.
Yeah.
Because if you buy the house cheap enough, there's enough cushion there. That's when for instance, we've just been talking about 2 deals this morning, which I'm hoping to, well, I'm actually going to buy them anyway. Don't know how. Again, I'll find when deals like this come your way, you've got to find the money. But again, this is purely because somebody knows that I do property. They've offered it me way below market value, and I'm just waiting for a call now off the agents just to tell me what the end values would be. And I think there's a good chunk of money out of them too. So it's telling people what you do, mate. Rightmove, you look on Rightmove, they're not deals. I'd say nearly everything, 90% of deals on properties on Rightmove, they're in the window to every investor. You need to be a bit more creative. You need to start putting just the word out what you do. You need to start putting notes indoors where that there's an empty property or not the next door neighbour. Do you know what I mean? I always tell people what to do. I'm in WhatsApp groups. Where I live now, I'm in a WhatsApp group just with the neighbours. Oh, by the way, my name's Andy Hart. I'm a carpet flooring guy, but also buy properties. If anybody's, needs help selling properties or whatever, and I've got friends who builders and window fitters who are always sending me people's names who, for instance, recently, my window fitters have just done a job and just said this woman's desperate to sell a house. She's divorced. Shall I send her your number? So you send it over. Do you know what I mean? So tell all your friends, tell all the trades what you do. And then they pass deals on to me. Obviously, I'll give them a drink, of course. But, glass of water now, or a tea bag.
Wow, that's amazing, and I 100% I agree with you. Like, if you tell people what you do, tell people that you are in property, that this is your strategy, this is who you're looking to help. Like you mentioned, even the gym, and last week I was at the gym speaking to this guy, and he's got some properties in his portfolio. He mentioned something about the land, so I might be talking to him about the land opportunity, but it's only coming from the fact that I told him, I asked him really, what is he doing? He told me that he's doing some sort of work, but he's got some portfolio of properties, and then it very simply just turned into another conversation, which can be a potential opportunity. Telling people what you do is absolutely crucial. Utilizing social media, I think it's still very much underestimated, especially for people who think that social media is just a place to show off. Maybe they don't want to do it. Absolutely, it's a tool, isn't it? Social media is a tool.
Yeah.
So utilize everything that you've got, because then you can leverage whatever you've got right now, which doesn't have to be a lot, but in the future it can turn into a multi-million pound portfolio or a massive business. So that leads me to a question, because there's a lot of young people looking to start in property. Perhaps they don't have a lot of money to start with, or they just don't know where to start. What would be your top advice, or maybe if you've got 2 or 3, maybe, what would be your top advice for youngsters who are looking to start in property, who are looking to get into BRRs? What would you tell them?
Well, first things first, unlike myself, and I didn't have it all them years ago and it wasn't available, they need to educate themselves. Definitely need to get education. And you don't have to pay for it. You can go on YouTube. You can follow quite a few guys on there. You can watch YouTube videos. You can read books. We've mentioned about Richard Kiyosaki, his book and things like that. There's plenty of books out there. There's plenty of YouTube videos. There's a lot of knowledge out there. So you need anybody who eventually, if I start mentoring guys or females, my answer to that, my question to them would be: before you come to me, you need to just get yourself some education, learn a bit, because I wouldn't advise any youngster today to go into BRR, because they'd fail. They would literally fail. And even I think some property investors can fail in BRR if they don't know how it works and how to operate it correctly. So yeah, there's plenty of free education out there. Now, money. Youngsters always, everything I hear off people who are trying to get into properties, I haven't got the money. How am I going to get the money? Now, I was quite fortunate with buying council properties, but think outside the box. Just don't think, well, I'll leave property till I've got 30 grand. You'll never get 30 grand. Unless you've got a real high paid job and you're a good saver, like I was. You're never going to get 30 grand, so you're dreaming. So your dream's never going to happen. If you find the right deal, the money will come your way. So, for instance, if you educate yourself, you go, I think, and you're good at negotiating, you think you can get a below market value deal. Maybe you could just sell that on as a sourcer or co-source it and start building up a bit of a pot. You might make 5 grand, 3 grand, and like yourself, with rent to rent, and might sort of source things on that and just build a bit of a pot up. If that's something you don't do, funds can come from other sources. You might have family who've got a house which is paid for, a sister or close sibling who have got property, grandparents who've got property. There's always ways of utilising some of their money out of their house. For instance, you might have parents might have a house worth £200,000. So effectively, you could say, well, what I would say to them, I have said this to a few friends of mine, just see whether they can get a 30, 40 grand loan on their house, which, as long as obviously the affordability is there, they borrow you the money, you buy the property. You might have to buy some refurb money, or if you've saved a little pot, you can do the refurb yourself. Pay your parents back. They might not even want anything, just a drink or whatever. just to get you on the ladder. I would do that to anybody, daughters. I'd help them if they wanted to get on the property ladder and do it that way. But you can always find the money. People just think that they've got to have that pot of cash themselves. They haven't. Again, with the bank, you might be great with your certain bank you're with. So I've lied to the bank. We might talk about the property in Spain in a minute, but I lied to the bank to get that. I lied to the bank to buy my second house to live in and then rent my first buy to let out, purely by just saying I need a further advance on the mortgage. What for? Because if I said I was going to buy another house, I'd say you're not having money for that. You're not borrowing money for an asset. You can borrow money for a liability to buy a car which depreciates or anything else. But we're not going to borrow your money to buy assets because that's what we do. So we don't like it. So I've borrowed money you could borrow money off the bank and just say you need a car loan or a personal loan. You can get a personal loan. You can do it that way. Use credit cards. There's always ways of finding the money. But if you've got that mindset, I've got to wait till I've got 30, 40,000. Believe me, it's never going to happen because the time you've got it, you need 60,000.
And you mentioned something very important that I'm a strong advocate of, which is a strong mindset. If you come from a place where you don't have the money, you come from a place where success is impossible. You see other people succeeding, but this is not for you. Wrong. If you really have that desire and you really want to succeed, do not say to yourself like, I can't do it. Just ask yourself how you can do it. Absolutely, I agree with you on this thing about education. Educate yourself because yes, you're playing with big money, so you want to make sure that you're doing the right thing. The knowledge is available for free. It's available if you want to pay for it. One thing I see people very often do these days is they treat money like it was just the most precious thing in the world. And I think money should be used as a vehicle to get into bigger things. So yes, if you need the knowledge, perhaps you need to pay for the knowledge, pay for it, get the education, utilize that knowledge and start making more money. So money is just a step, isn't it? If you want to achieve something, it's a step. If you want to be happy, you can buy happiness with money because you can travel more and you can just retire, etc., etc. What I'm saying here is that, yes, focus on getting what you need. And even if you have to pay for it, just don't be afraid to pay for it. But then go into it. And then second thing you said about, waiting and trying to save the pot of money. Absolutely. By the time you're going to save the 30K, you're going to need 50K or 60K. 100%. It's not like it's a case of yesterday or tomorrow. It's there today. If you want to do it, just bloody go and do it. Because, if you think that you're going to start in 12 months time because of X, Y, Z, then in fact, 12 months time, there's going to be something else along the way.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If you want to do it, just do it. If you don't want to do it, stop lying to yourself and then just leave that to somebody else. That's what I would say. So yes, you mentioned the house in Spain. I'm really, really keen on the story about house in Spain. I love the story, by the way.
Again, we go back to when I bought my father's flat, and the main reason why I bought it as well, because I says to my father, we used to go away a lot, well, every single year when my mother and father divorced in 92. So I said to Dad, if I buy your flat, God forbid when something happens to you, I'll sell the flat and I'll buy a lovely place in Gran Canaria, because me and Dad went to Gran Canaria every year. We'd been there probably twice at the time before, and it was Lanzarote. But when we went to Gran Canaria in 2003, he said, I think I love it. I said, me too. This is my haven. And that was the reason why I bought the flat. So I thought, okay. But then I kept, me being me, I just kept lying in bed thinking, I'm only going to be able to afford an apartment in Gran Canaria because of the passing of my father. To me, that was a bit of a failure. And also wouldn't see it. So I had to again think outside the box. I need to buy a place here, but how am I going to do it? I've no idea whatsoever. But again, I'm not risk averse. I'm risk averse. I'll just go out and do it. I don't. Money to me, people might think differently, but money to me doesn't mean anything to me. It's great to have it, of course it is, but to me, it's just a zero. It's just like a tool I can use just to get bigger things and whatever. Like so, it doesn't really appeal to me that much. But it's great to have, of course. It comes as like a gift for working hard and doing what I do. I ended up going to Puerto Rico in Gran Canaria, seeing an apartment. It was €100,000. They says over here in Spain you can have a 70% mortgage. So we need €30,000 sent over. Okay, I'll have the apartments. Told my dad. My dad comes to look at it. He says, "Well, how are you going to buy it?" I said, "No idea, because you can't borrow money in the UK to take to Spain to buy an apartment. You just can't do it. You've either got to have the money in the bank." So the first property I bought, I'd already had 2 loans off it. I'd had the first loan to buy my residential, and I rented that out, which covered my residential house and that as well. So I was effectively more financially better off having the 2 than the 1. I bought my dad's flat with it, so I went back to the bank, the big H bank, and I said, I need another loan on it. I said, the house is worth, I think at the time, 150. I only owe 60 or 70, whatever it was. Can I have some more money? Yeah, what you're looking for? I said, I'm looking for about 25,000. Obviously, what for? Home improvements. Okay, so I went to my friends. I just said, I need a quotation for a new drive. I need a quotation for windows. I need a quotation for flooring. I did that. I need a quotation for the roof and whatever. And I got quotations of all my friends in the pubs. And I took them to the bank. I said, "There's the quotations, and that's why I need 25 grand. I've done it to it, so it was about 30,000, but I'll put 5 grand in. It's not a problem. Oh, we like to see that you actually contributed, Andrew. It's not a problem." So they gave me 25 grand. So the 25 grand's gone in the bank. I opened an account with Telex. I think it was called Telex, a currency agent company, and I zipped the money over to Gran Canaria, and that was my deposit. And I got checked over there for mortgage purposes, and I ended up having a Spanish mortgage. Bought the apartments in 2005. Obviously, the 25 grand which I borrowed home improvements was being paid from my tenants. So okay, my mortgage went up a little bit, but I'm even if I was just sort of breaking even, it doesn't matter. I believe that all my tenants pay for all my luxuries. That's what I believe. And as long as they're paying for all what I buy, then great. And I believe the more houses you buy, the more obviously wealthy you get. My dad used to say to me, "I don't get it. I'm worried. What happens if it doesn't work?" Well, in the property investment game, if it doesn't work, you sell the house. There's no risk to it, because house prices go up. So I ended up buying the apartments, and when I bought it, it was sort of just upstairs, a 1-bedroom, self-contained apartment. But underneath, I'd noticed that next door had got a door, next door had got a door, next door had got a door, and some stairs going down. So I asked the question, "So we've all just dug underneath illegally. It's fine. Your floor is the ceiling from underneath. It's all self-supported, and we've all just built little apartments." Flew my friends out in 2006. Got a Kango. Again, I've got all the pictures. I can zip you over. I'll show you later. Boshed an hole underneath. Put my head in. It was all full of rocks and what have you. We done a week there, mate. Just too much. You just couldn't shift it. Where am I going to put all the rubber and what have you? But we had 2 maintenance guys, 1 Colombian and 1 Chilean. And I approached them before we went home, and I said, "How much did you charge me to excavate all that out?" He said, well, he couldn't talk English, and I wasn't any good at Spanish at the time, so €2,000. I said, "You can carry on." You can carry on. So he said, when you come out, bring the €2,000. He knew me anyway, because I was living upstairs in Villa Hart. So I paid him. I went out 3 months later. He excavated it all out. He then said, do you want any more work done?" I said, "Yes, please. Can you get it all skimmed and all the wiring put in?" Probably another 3,000. He done all that. He then pulled all the tiles down for me. So I got it basically to the point where me and my friend Paul went out in 2007, and we just had to paint it. It was a shell still. Paid him. Then my friend Graham, who lived at number 14 at the time, helped me put the kitchen and bathroom in. So I spent the first couple of nights just on a mattress there, because we had no toilet, no kitchen. Upstairs was being rented. So I stayed downstairs for a few days. In fact, I was there. I booked a single flight to go out, and it took me and Graham a week. While I was doing the travelling up to Las Palmas to get all my materials from Leroy Merlin, which is the Spanish B&Q, if you like. all the way back, then IKEA, and it took a week, and I've got it completely made into a self-contained 35, same size as upstairs, 35 square metre apartment. Illegal, I know, put a window in, door, but everyone said, don't worry, it's over here, it's you wouldn't get away from the UK. And I rented that out straight away to somebody, put it on Facebook for €400 a month. That rent there paid for my mortgage upstairs. So now I've got an apartment in banking area, well, two, one legal, one not, but 2 apartments, and my mortgage was being paid as well. So I kept upstairs free for me because she was paying for it downstairs, and I had the one downstairs, and I had that and the beauty about it was I achieved what I wanted to achieve. My dad's seen the apartments that I didn't think he would ever see. So I had to think outside the box. So I knew then that when, God forbid, the time Dad dies, passes away, the money would go on other things, which it has done. But he's in the apartment, and we had a good 12, 13 years there, up until the day he passed. And I only sold it in 2019.
Amazing. So this just shows that property game, it's not just about making money, but it's also about creating memories. And I think very often every single deal is like it's like a different mini story, isn't it? Because it's not just a case of buying, renting out. Every story will be different.
Yeah.
Every property will create. Yeah, exactly. So that's what is I think beautiful. And I have like every single rent deal that I secured, every property that I bought, every deal has got its own story to me and different meaning. And the more meanings you can congregate in your history, in your portfolio, the stronger you become. And it's beautiful because at the end of the day, when you're on your deathbed, you're gonna think, I've done something in my life. It's beautiful. You created beautiful memories for you and your dad. I think it's something priceless. So property, yes, making money, creating cash flows, etc. Looking at it from that perspective, though, it's much more than that, isn't it?
It's a book.
So what's the best way to contact you? Can you share your Instagram handle or how to contact you? Is Instagram the best way to contact you?
Yeah, Instagram, yeah. I'm on Instagram. I am Andrew Hart Property, which people can just get me on there and contact me directly. I'm always here to help as much as I can to people, because I do get direct messages, so I don't mind. I'll try and answer to anybody who's got any questions. And I can obviously, of course, pass my number on. But I'm going to start I do always say this, I'm going to take a backward step from doing what I do and get more into helping other people and teaching them what I know and how to deal with agents and how to negotiate deals and how to work out the end values and things like that. So I think eventually when I do go into to education, then people can just contact me on, they'll see anyway, because I'll be advertising it when I finally do decide to go down that road. So, yeah.
That's amazing. So thank you very much for coming over. Thank you very much for sharing all that wisdom. It's been absolutely amazing. Your journey is like an incredible story that hopefully will inspire many, many people. I'm definitely sure of that. And I cannot wait to hear more from you when you go into SAs. Who knows, maybe in the future we're going to be doing some deals together about SA. Why not? Why not?
You never say never, mate.
Never say never, absolutely. But that way or another, great hosting you. Thank you very much for being in the studio with me today. And I'm looking forward to see more of your success.
Thank you for having me.